long time no see. Welcome to the Clubhouse, everybody. We got Danny Clevenger hanging out with us in studio. I'm Brooke Fletcher. That's Joshua Perry. And hey, Russell Dorsey, he's about to get on a plane in probably just a few minutes.
He's also about to send me a text on how much he hates me. Well, that's also coming through in a matter of minutes.
Well, he's going on a very extended vacation, you know, jet setting across to Europe here. So one thing we like to do when Russ goes on vacation is we like to follow him on the socials. He's very active, and so with that, we put together a little bingo card as we are trying to, you know, decide or to guess what Russ is going to post on his socials there. Take a look at some of the squares. Which ones stand out to you guys?
The who you with post. That is right under that G there. You know when you post a photo, you don't want anybody to really know who you're with?
Yeah.
Like the so you see two drinks,
yes,
but it wants to remain a mystery.
Right, you don't see the other person on the other side of the second drink.
Happen.
It's a really good one. I think we do see that. Russ also considers himself a worldly man of leisure. And so one of the things that comes along with that is the fact that he is bilingual. He speaks Spanish, but we don't know if he speaks French. And the thing I'm curious about is the caption in French. Will we see it for one of his posts?
Will the caption, or will he maybe say a sentence in French?
In his little deep voice while he's licking his lips and he's got his shirt off like he did last year?
That's a little much. I'm not going to comment on it.
French, you know, it's a very romantic language there. You know, maybe Russ, he is single, going, having some fun over there in France. So
you know what? There's a good chance we knock out multiple of these on one post. Because Giraffe, if you're unfamiliar, Brooke and I have both gone there. It's a beautiful restaurant.
Gorgeous.
Looks right at the Eiffel Tower. A great place for a who you with date, if you will.
We need to do daily updates here for the bingo board, and we should just cross them off live on air. That would actually be a lot of fun. But anyways, listen, it's the last weekend of the regular season in the NFL here, and we're going to break down some of the most important matchups. So I'm going to get my steps in here on the show. So I'm going to make my way over to Joshua over here.
All right, that's dangerous.
I picked the wrong day to wear heels,
Running
Joshua.
in them little heels is dangerous, Brooke.
Let's hope I don't bust it here as I'm going back and forth.
I will help you if you do.
Honestly, it won't surprise me if I do. I'm clumsy. Let's start with one of the biggest matchups here. We got the Bills. They're taking on the Dolphins here. Two top teams in the AFC. What are you looking for?
It's really the Buffalo secondary against Miami and their skill, their passing game, essentially. And we've seen what Miami has done with their passing game. It's the #1 pass game in the league. The Bills have been pretty good defensively, particularly in the back end. They've got a top 10 pass defense. But I think one of the things that really challenges teams when they play Miami is not just the personnel. We got to see what Waddle looks like when he gets out there. Mostert's supposed to be questionable coming back into the game plan here. It's really the offensive design and the way that they can manipulate players and move them around to create big voids in the back end and have guys running wide open. So I think for Buffalo, it's a big study week. Thankfully for them, it's a team that they play twice a year, so they've got familiarity, but they got to be on their P's and Q's to knock out this Miami offense.
All right, well, Joshua's talking X's and O's here. Danny K, she is our Live on the Line host, so you know a thing or two about betting. Let's talk about the lines here, because the AFC East title is on the line. Buffalo needs to win in order to make the playoffs here, but the Bills, they're riding a 4-game win streak. So what are you liking as far as bets go?
Yeah, actually, Joshua was talking about Buffalo's defense, but you got to take a look at the Dolphins' defense and how they absolutely got lit up by the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. I think they're going to want to try to tighten up that pass defense quite a bit, which leaves a nice little game here for Josh Allen to go over 35 and a half rushing yards. He only had 17 the first time that they played, but they were absolutely dominating the Dolphins in that one, offensively and defensively. I think this is a much tighter game. He actually averages more than 50 rushing yards per game against the Dolphins in his career. I also think he can boot scoot himself in for a touchdown as well if you want to do a same game parlay. I think the Bills win this game, and that's quite juicy at +145 if you're a degenerate like myself.
Ooh.
Josh Allen, he has been playing well as of late, although he has been a little inconsistent, but that's a really good bet, Danny. Let's get to another game with playoff implications on the line. We got the Texans taking on the Colts. What you got?
I'm looking at the Indianapolis pass rush against this Colts offensive line and ultimately, against the Texans offensive line, and ultimately C.J. Stroud as the quarterback. The last time these two teams played earlier this year, you know how many times C.J. Stroud was sacked?
How many?
He was sacked 6 times in that game. You know how hard it is to complete passes when you're laying on your back? It's very difficult.
I would imagine so.
And so the idea here is that the Texans have to have more answers for what Indianapolis has from a pass rush standpoint. Now, they've been up and down this year. There have been some games where C.J. Stroud's been sacked a couple times. There's been another game where he was sacked 5 times. I think this could become an issue, but if they can keep him upright and ultimately if C.J. Stroud can navigate that pocket, we'll be able to see one of the reasons why he is the favorite for Rookie of the Year, because this dude is a baller, and he can get it out there to his weapons on the edge. But I try to get after him as often as possible if I'm Indy.
All right, a lot to play for here. Danny, let's win people some money. What you got?
Well, the Colts actually rank him on the 5 worst teams in both rushing yards and receiving yards allowed to opposing running backs. So my eyes are completely on this guy, Devin Singletary, because here's the deal. If he eclipses 1,000 rushing yards on the year, he gets a $125,000 bonus.
Ooh.
Now, that requires him to have a very, very big game in this one, but I think it's very capable, especially against that Colts defense that I said is susceptible against the run. Not to mention, you've got that extra motivation for a playoff berth. You've got the extra motivation for extra bag in your pocket. I think both of these scenarios end up well for him, not only in the rushing yards, but I think he gets involved in the passing game as well. Love him at 13.5. They give up 167 total rushing yards to the Falcons' backfield. Yeah. So you mean to tell me this guy can't get 62 rushing yards? He's going to be fine. This one's the little bit dicier one of the two, but definitely loving the first one.
All right, good stuff, Danny. And everybody loves a good old rivalry, Joshua,
Sure
right? We got the Bears. They're taking on the Packers here. So what are you seeing in this game?
This quarterback matchup, it's two young guys that a lot of people have talked about. It caused some consternation in the football community. To start with Jordan Love and the finish that he's had to the season here in the last 5 games, 1,244 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So he's been very productive. He's been able to protect the football and ultimately lead this offense in a commanding way. And for Justin Fields, he's had a pretty good finish himself. He's a guy who has figured out how to embrace the role of what he needs to be within that offense. A quarterback who's got a strong enough arm, one who can evade some pass rush because his offensive line isn't playing well. And then ultimately, when the opportunities come, he can get the job done on the ground. We've seen multiple games where he's had 50 plus, even up to 100 yards on the ground. So I think whichever one of these quarterbacks is able to most efficiently lead their teams is going to win. And I think the bigger challenge is probably going to be for Jordan Love in this one, because when you see the way that the Bears have played defensively here to close out the season, they have forced turnovers, they have harassed quarterbacks. And so for a young dude who's trying to win and get into the playoffs, he's going to have maybe one of his most poised performances of the season.
All right, well, JP says it's coming down to the QBs here, Danny, and this is a big rivalry. So what do you have? How can people win some money?
Look at JP. We're on the same page here, my friend. I got a wager for both quarterbacks. He talked about Justin Fields and what he can do with his legs. The Packers 26th overall against the run this year, and actually the 3rd most rushing yards allowed to opposing quarterbacks as well. Those are all stats that lead to thinking that Justin Fields is going to get at least 52 rushing yards in this one, not to mention he's playing for a spot. Is he going to be the quarterback of the Chicago Bears moving forward? That's the big question mark. If not, what is he going to continue to put on tape to give an exclamation point on why teams should want to take him should Chicago decide to ultimately part ways? This is a big game for him to make quite a statement, especially knowing that they've lost the last 9 matchups against the Packers here. But Jordan Love, I disagree with you to an extent. I do believe that he's going to have a big game through the air because Chicago's #1 in run defense in the NFL right now. So he's going to have to air it out. And he's had 16 touchdowns, just 1 interception across his last 6 games. So I do think it's possible that he gets to, especially at home, when they want to make the playoffs.
All right, good stuff from our NFL vet and our betting expert here as you guys place your bets heading into the weekend. When we come back, listen, it's been 13 years in the making. The Magic, they are retiring Shaq's jersey. So what are some other things that just took way too long? Well, we're going to discuss right here on the Clubhouse coming up next.
One of the big questions about Jim Harbaugh, typically when we get to this point in the year, is what his future is going to be. Michigan extended reportedly a contract in front of him. He's like, listen, I need to take a little bit more time. Hasn't necessarily been touched yet. Do you think this is Jim Harbaugh's last game as the Michigan coach?
Well, I came into this season, Josh, with thinking that this would be it for Jim Harbaugh. I mean, his 9th season at Michigan, he had signed, he left the 49ers, came to Michigan in 2015. He signed a 7-year deal. So he fulfilled that promise. And now he's given them these bonus years that have been exceptional. And I mean, look, he went to the Vikings for an interview in 2022. He was in serious conversations with the Broncos early 2023. He has a Super Bowl itch. I don't think anyone can blame him for that. I mean, he sees his brother. He's got a Super Bowl win, obviously, against him. And I think if he can take Michigan, if they can win a national championship, I'm not saying if they win or lose. If they win or lose, I think he's seriously going to be considering any NFL offers that come his way.
A longtime Michigan beat reporter on Red Corner, Blue Corner, and she brings up a point that I believe everybody is going to continue to try and hammer home come Monday. Heading into the national championship, is this the last time we are going to see Jim Harbaugh on those sidelines there at Michigan?
I think it's a really tough one to answer. I'm leaning toward yes, it will be. And I think about all the reasons why it would be the right time to leave. Is first off, I mean, if they win this game, of course it's the right time for Jim Harbaugh to leave. You want to leave on a high note. He's also going to be exiting with 44 seniors on that roster, too, one of the most veteran teams in college football. And now you're looking at maybe a little bit more of a rebuild as you come back next year if you were to return. The other thing I'm looking at is where this program stands with the NCAA. We obviously know that Jim Harbaugh is going to be subject to punishment, suspensions, etc. if he does come back. Would you rather just turn this program over to a guy like Sharon Moore potentially, where you know it's going to be in good hands with him? They're probably going to go easier on the program if Jim's not there, because ultimately this seems like more of a head coach responsibility issue than anything else when it comes to the sign stealing from all the information that we have out here. But there's also that idea that if they lose, there may be some unfinished business that he would want to come back, especially if J.J. McCarthy feels that way. But a lot of this feels like the right time for Jim Harbaugh to go ahead and say, I'm going to go back to the NFL.
Well, it all depends on, if he does decide to come back, because is he going to want to stay? Because they offered him that, allegedly offered him that contract. They're going to want him to stay long term, not just for a couple of years. So he has to think about that in his decision. But, I agree with everything that you were saying there. I feel like it's all about timing. And if you win, especially if you win the national title, it's time to kind of pass the torch on to a guy like Sharon Moore, who has proven that he has the trust of this locker room. Yeah, you're losing a lot of seniors there, but people, when you get recruits, they're buying into that program, and part of that program is Sharon Moore, so you don't have to worry about bringing an outsider in, losing those recruits and what you have really built there at Michigan. So I think it's time, and I think Sharon Moore is ready. Also, might be, a lot of teams and a lot of programs want a guy like that, a guy that's a player's coach, that he is outstanding. So if you're Michigan, if you're the president, if you want to keep him there, and so he's not going to be around forever, in my opinion, because he's going to be, people are going to try to hire him as a head coach elsewhere. So this is the time now if you want to make sure that you are keeping that, sustaining what you got there at Michigan.
It feels like there's some infrastructure there if Jim were to make a departure, and I think that's really important to feel like you have continuity over your roster and over the way that things are being done, especially when your team is performing to as high of a level as they are right now.
It's just a completely different landscape when you go to the NFL, as you know. Right. It's less recruiting. It's really less work to an extent. You actually have a vacation when you're in the NFL. And Brooke, I know you've talked to Jim Harbaugh multiple times about the fact that he has a house in San Diego, loves to spend time with his family. I mean, going to the NFL, definitely you're still working. You have a hard, big caseload, but it's not year-round like when you're dealing with recruits. But something you both mentioned was if he wins, he'll go off. So does the outcome of the game affect this decision?
I think the outcome of the game makes it much easier. I think if you win here, now you can fully set your sights on winning the Super Bowl, which everybody talks about as something Jim Harbaugh wants to do. His brother's got one over him. I think that he would like to be in that same conversation there. I think after the loss, though, there's still a lot of the same attraction for the NFL. And the thing that people aren't really talking about either that I'd like to say right here is there's an idea that potentially if Michigan loses, the punishment from the NCAA could be, in fact, worse than if they win, because the last thing you want to do is contemplate stripping a title from a team that just won, because now it feels like a season didn't happen when we all just watched it. That's an interesting thing to consider here as well.
And there's a lot of vacancies, like head coaching vacancies in the NFL right now, and, you know, for teams that would be a great fit for a guy like Jim Harbaugh, do we know that they are going to be around next year or the year after that? So, you know, you kind of have to strike while it's hot.
Absolutely. And guys, speaking of strike while it's hot, we're going to go from football to basketball now, because the Magic did quite the opposite. They didn't strike while the iron was hot when it came to retiring Shaquille O'Neal's jersey. It took 13 years. He retired in 2011, played his last season with the Magic all the way back in 1996. So this got us thinking, what are some things in sports that just took too long to accomplish here?
Well, do you want to start? Also, I mean, okay, I think paying college players, I think, with their name, image, and likeness, and I think this has been, you know, a huge debate for years where people were, you know, making the argument, well, athletes, they're getting paid through college education, they don't need it, and they were, while the NCAA, they were making billions of dollars off of these players here, so I think that was something that took way too long just to make sure players were compensated and taken care of.
Absolutely. Speaking of pay, equal pay for women as well. I think that took far, far too long. You can see just that package deal that happened with ESPN with women's and men's sports there. That was an amazing, big step there towards acknowledging what women's sports brings to the table, the viewership as well, and the talents. Let's be realistic here. Definitely nice to see, but it took far too long.
Yeah, I think something that's still taking entirely too long is Eric Bieniemy in his quest to become a head coach in the NFL. And it just, I feel like year after year, we see guys who are terrible head coaches get hired. And we've seen even retread terrible head coaches get hired once again. And I ask people, what is the risk in hiring a guy like Eric Bieniemy, who's got those old school coaching values, who certainly has done a really good job with his resume and who he's coached in his career? What is the risk in hiring him? It seems like teams are firing coaches left and right anyway. Like, it's one of the wildest things is like they use every reason against him that they use to hire the guys that they end up firing anyway, and I don't like it.
Well, he has a good chance. You know, Ron Rivera, his seat is very hot at the moment, so maybe he gets hired there.
Brooke lived in Detroit. You played in the NFL. So let's just give the Lions some love here. It's been far too long since they've won a Super Bowl, let alone hosted a playoff game since 1991. For the record, that's the year I was born.
I wasn't even around.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows that I'm older than you, but that's fine.
It's been
1991. That is a whopping 32 years.
Oh, and I respect the Lions fan base so much because despite all of their struggles and how long it's been since this team was competitive or even considered to win a Super Bowl, they are dedicated fans.
Why can't people just pick new teams?
Because you have to be dedicated.
I don't think you do.
What's the point of following a team if you're just going to jump off the bandwagon?
I know,
if
but
times
why
get
would
tough?
you force yourself to be miserable like that? Like, just go ahead and pick a new team.
Because when they win the Super Bowl, it's not if, it's when they win the Super Bowl, Joshua, it's going to be so great.
If Ohio State stunk, would you keep up that mentality?
That's a great question, Danny.
That's a different thing. I bled for that university. It is. I played there. I was a champion there. I bled for that university.
It's because he played at multiple NFL teams, so now he has no allegiance.
No, I don't. And I think that's the other thing too, is like none of y'all played for any of these teams that you were cheering for, except for the team that you played for in college. And so
I still cheer for Oregon State and Tennessee.
Exactly. So the idea that you can't pick the team you want to cheer for is crazy for me. It's neither here nor there. That's a different segment. The other one I'd like to point out is a CFP champion north of the Mason-Dixon line, because all of the championships, it feels like, are down south. The last one that happened up north was the one that I played in. That was nearly a decade ago, and you have to go back before that. For me, it's good to see a champ in the north here, and we're getting one of those on Monday.
And that's coming on Monday. That's going to be some fun stuff. More fun coming your way on the other side of this here on the Clubhouse. We're doing impressions. Yep, that's definitely something you don't want to miss.
Come on, man. We got 69 more games. 69. I like that number. I like that number. 69, huh?
How many games do we have left? 69? Ooh, 69. I like that number. I like that.
All right, well, there you just saw freak-ass Russ giving his best impression of freak-ass Giannis, and we're going to see if any of us can go ahead and top it there. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first. How many games do we have left? 69? 69. I like that number.
That's
Wow,
not
Sherry, that's really
bad.
good. That was really good.
Oh, thank you.
That was really, really good.
All right, go Danny.
How many games do we have left? 69? Oh, I like 69. I like that number. Am I actually Greek?
I'm
I think
tickled.
that's good. All right, Joshua.
We have 69 games left. Oh, 69. I like that number.
I can't believe
like
we
it.
all have been now clipped to be able to put this on.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
they're gonna
saying.
be on the
They're gonna
internet.
use
like,
this
Great
against
job.
us.
That was great.
y'all
Good
some
job,
freaks.
guys. They're up there. You're clipping this off, and you're probably gonna use this against us one day.
100%.
Coming
But
back.
if y'all want to join
Mama
in
not be happy with
on
me saying
giving
69.
your best impressions, you can scan it, submit right there. The fan feed. You can be featured on the show. We need your content, folks, and we love to run it. So make sure you scan that QR code. That is right there on the screen. But now it is time to get to our last call because Connor Bedard was just named an NHL All-Star at 18 years old. That would be the youngest All-Star in NHL history. So it got us thinking about what we were doing at the age of 18.
Not bad.
Brooke, what were you doing?
Well, I was graduating, or I was in high school, right? I was
Yes.
in high school.
Yeah.
I was a cheerleader. There
Oh,
for
look at
Star
cheerleader
High
Brooke.
School.
Wait,
And then
why was that you?
that's how old I am. The pictures are all pixelated because the quality wasn't good. I was Miss Georgia Teen USA.
Miss Georgia.
Competing at Miss Teen USA down in the Bahamas. I was first runner-up.
All right, Miss Georgia.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so that was fun.
All right.
That's
That's
actually
so
literally
long ago.
what my dream was at 18. That was not exactly what was taking place.
Well, what
though.
was taking place, Danielle?
I was in high school, obviously, to start. That's a high school basketball photo
Yes,
there.
with the
Letterman's
jacket on.
jacket, senior
Yeah.
photos.
Nice.
Do they still do that? That's the question. I mean, I had a full photo shoot like I was some sort of model. I wasn't, as we can tell. But yeah, went on to play
Don't hate
college
like that.
basketball. But our record was terrible.
Yeah.
So I got nothing to hang my hat on.
You were the star, Danny.
There was a lot of stars on that jacket. We did well, but no state title.
Yeah, that's a lot of stars.
Womp
though.
womp.
Joshua, what were you doing?
Well, I was enrolled at The Ohio State University by the time I was 18. I enrolled there at 17, so there you can see me as a freshman wearing number 15. That was not the number I wore
You look just as
for
thrilled
a
to see you
majority
today.
of my career. No Buckeye leaves on that helmet either. It is empty. And then you got young babyface JP with the dreadlocks
baby
hanging out at the
Joshua.
dorms.
Baby.
How about it?
Look at us. And look at us now.
I know.
We've come a long
club
Who would
way.
have thought?
Who would have thought? Not me.
Not me.
Certainly not me.
Danny, thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys.
that was
so
fun.
much
weekend.
Thanks, Danny.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us at home. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Monday. Hello, long time no see. Welcome to the Clubhouse, everybody. We got Danny Clevenger hanging out with us in studio. I'm Brooke Fletcher. That's Joshua Perry. And hey, Russell Dorsey, he's about to get on a plane in probably just a few minutes.
He's
as
also
he's going
about
on
to
his
send me a text on how much he hates me. That's also